All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Martha Alter Hines, and today I have such a treat for you. Really, I feel
Mm.
like I'm here about to give you all this amazing gift. So, so I'm here today with Sandie Sedgbeer, who many of you likely know. But in case you don't, she is a mutual friend of Pam Gregory and was introduced to me through a different mutual friend and I've known about you, Sandie, for I don't know years, but we hadn't directly connected. And so Sandie, I'll read her bio in a second, but um, she has been a connector in the spiritual world for what decades, decades and decades, and is connected with so many similar people to me. Like Jude Currivan is another mutual connection and friend, and um, just has a wealth of knowledge and wisdom and I would say more than anything, love in my experience of you so far. And yeah, so Sandie in her work tends to interview person after person after person after person after person. And when this other mutual friend connected us and we got to meet a few weeks ago, I just was kind of amazed by the way that I feel. I feel you like this jewel in your heart, literally. Like I see like this like ruby red jewel just shining, you know? And and so part of me felt a little bit, I want to say sad. I don't know if sad is the right word. A little bit sad, like wait, she's doing all this amazing, beautiful, generous work of shining everyone else out into the world. And we don't get a chance to witness you, right? So in this conversation, yeah, we're going to witness Sandie and get to know you and get to hear your incredible perspective on life and the spiritual world and kind of where you feel like we're going and from the perspective of having so many decades witnessing all of this. So welcome, Sandie.
Thank you, Martha.
Yay. I just want to reach around and give you a big hug. It's like such a special being. Um, so yes, let me read your bio so people have the kind of more formal introduction to you. Okay, so Sandie Sedgbeer is a journalist, author, and media consultant whose career spans print, broadcast, and publishing on both sides of the Atlantic. A six-time author and 13-time book award judge, she helps authors, speakers, and visionaries use the science of resonance to create books, content, and platforms that truly connect. She is the creator of the No BS Spiritual Book Club and the Awakening Your Inner Storyteller writing program. And then you have a total of three shows, right?
Three
And
shows. Yeah,
yeah, and you'll be interviewing me later on. But
I will.
but yeah, I feel like we're starting in the right place, which is for me to get to really get to know you and all of us get to really feel the heart and that jewel of you because so yeah, I just feel it. It makes me cry. So anyway, again, welcome. Um Okay, so let's start with, yeah, what do you feel like um when you really go into your own experience of yourself and your soul and your spirit, what's the most alive in this moment? You know, this time on the planet, which is such a, you could say a big moment. I think we probably all feel that way. What what comes alive in your heart or yourself? Just what's landing right here for you, looking out into the
Well,
world?
we are in such a people use the word unprecedented, and it's so much more than that. I mean, we truly are stepping into, territory that very few of us have been in before. And I'm only just beginning after many decades to realize the enormity of it. And we know that reality, that what we think of as reality, you know, isn't it. But I'm just beginning to see it's like the doors are opening and I'm going, oh my God, it's even bigger than I thought. Oh my God, it's a time of just absolute surprise. And there has to be some, not fear, but certainly some, wow, curiosity about where we're going to end up. Because I don't think any of us really grasp where we're going to be heading. We hear it, we've been hearing it for years, oh, well, we're all going to be in the golden era, it's very, very soon or whatever. But it's just, words really can't express what I sense in front of us. And so from day to day, I'm constantly in awe and waiting, you know, waiting to see what's going to happen next. It's a hugely chaotic time for people, and that really, you know, you want to help everybody, but you can't. Um, And I think that people like you, people like me, who've been interviewing people, who've been sharing our work, guiding, trying to hold up a light, we're all working overtime now
Mm,
because, people they need an anchor to hold on to. And it's such a precarious position to be in because, just like everyone else, we're being buffeted all the time by all of these distractions and unexpected experiences that are happening. Um, but it's a time for, do you really believe? Do you really believe that you are a creator being?
mm,
Because this is the time that's going to test that.
mm.
If you really believe that, then you got to step up to the plate.
Wow.
That's the kind of time we're in. There's no messing around, you
Mm,
know.
yeah.
Yeah, and honestly, words truly cannot express it. So I'm having difficulty. I'm not being very articulate because, I don't know where it's going.
Yeah, I don't either. Yeah, my experience is just one moment, one step, one foot in front of the other, and
Yeah,
following my guides from moment to moment to moment. Yeah. Yes. Um, so can you tell us when you and I talked a few weeks ago and I got to hear a little bit about your own story, one of the things that struck me is you said, you've been interviewing spiritual leaders and you used to what publish your own spiritual magazine decades ago. So you've been doing this for a very long time. Can you just give us a bit of your background and yeah, first of all, on a personal level, where did your own spiritual journey begin? And then how long would you say you've been kind of doing this, connecting and your Gemini version of, being this beautiful, beautiful being in the spiritual community. Yeah, just tell us anything you want about, go back to the beginning and share anything
okay.
you feel called. Yeah.
Well,
Called
for the
to share.
first 40 years of my life, it was all about me. Me, me, me. I'm going to be famous. I'm going to do this. I'm going to be a writer. I'm going to write books. And I had this interest in what I would call the unexplained, the occult. I was reading occult books from the time I was about 15, but I wasn't sure I believed any of it. And in a sense, all of them, and I was an avid reader, but it was always over there. I was always kind of critiquing it, looking at it one eye askance, not sure if I really believe this, but fascinated. Um, and something happened to me in 1987, which was the year of the harmonic convergence, and I didn't know that then. Um, but at some point in that year, something happened to me, and I cannot pinpoint the day or exactly what it was, but I went from keeping everything out there, all the spiritual stuff, keeping an eye on it, but it was all out there, to suddenly feeling it all here. And the only way I could describe it, it was like I thought that I was looking for some knowledge, But when everything came in here, I suddenly realized I'd been trying to remember.
Wow. Hmm.
So what I used to do, and I'd pick up these books and I'd go, yeah, that sounds plausible. Oh no, that one doesn't. Toss that one. And I would just gauge the books like that. And I didn't know why I took that attitude. But once that happened, it was, oh my God, I was trying to remember something. And what I've been doing is getting all the pieces together, the pieces of the puzzle that created some kind of picture that triggered, if you like, this knowing within me. From that moment on, everything changed. It was no longer all about me.
Wow.
Yeah. And at that point, I knew there was a journey in front of me, and I wasn't sure what that journey looked like. I had a very good idea that it was going to turn my life upside down. But of course, you can say that, and it's not until it does that you actually really see, and experience what that means. But, I can remember buying my first crystal around then, putting it on a table in my living room and having the thought, that's going to change your life, and pushing the thought away.
Mm.
I didn't want to, didn't want to acknowledge that. And then it changed my life. My relationship with my fiance, everything, my whole life changed. And I thought, I remember saying it's going to change your life, but I never thought it would show up anything like this. Um, and in a lot of synchronous things happened, all to lead me down a certain path to a certain place until in 1998, I suddenly knew I had to go to America. And I'd always had a love affair with America. There was something about America. I mean, America's very tightly, tied into my astrological chart, but I didn't know that. But I just knew I had to go to America, and I didn't know how I was going to get there. Because you've got to have a work permit. In order to get a work permit, you've got to have a certain level of education. You've got to have degrees. I didn't have degrees. But everything fell into place for me. It was like someone was behind the scenes moving things around, and everything that was required, I got. And I ended up in San Diego. And the moment I arrived in San Diego, boom, it was like, it was like another part of me emerged. Suddenly, instead of reading about all these books, I'm right in the middle of everything. Um, you know, I was offered the opportunity to start an online spiritual magazine. My
Mm.
background was magazines, but I'd never worked on online. And a channel was trying to start a magazine, and I took it over for him. And that put me right in the center where I was meeting all the spiritual teachers. For me, it was like America was where everyone was coming from. All the books that were coming into England, everyone was in America. So suddenly here I am in America, place that I've always wanted to be, right in the center of, the spiritual arena. And I just lapped it all up, learning on a crash course, I think it was. If you're doing a magazine, you've got to be reading a lot of material. You've got to be constantly, imbibing material. And my whole life changed. And this particular channel kept saying to me over the next several years, you need to change the work you're doing. I was still working for clients in Europe, marketing, publishing, etc. And I said, no, I can't do that. And then one day something said, yes, you can. And I
Wow.
said to him, the next time I met him, yeah, yeah, okay, I'm going to do what you said. And the very next day, I was interviewing two people on his show who turned out to be my first spiritual clients.
Wow.
Both of them, one even came up to me and said, I don't know what you do, but something tells me I've got to ask you. And I said, well, as of last night. And he said, that's just what I'm looking for. I mean, it was ridiculous the way everything just, it's orchestrated, completely orchestrated.
Wow.
And it's just gone on from there. I started doing interviews for his particular internet TV show, which was one of the first out there, and I never stopped.
Mm. Yeah, well, you've described yourself to me. You say that people call you what, the Cosmic Switchboard Operator? Is that what you say? Yeah. And it's
Cosmic
like,
Switchboard, yeah.
yeah, Cosmic. Yeah. And I'm just seeing it's like, I mean, I don't know. I could be totally making this up, but what I'm feeling as you're describing all of this is like that's Cosmic Switchboard is just inherently there for you, right? I mean, I think it's probably what I experience as the divine light grid of everything, but
Yeah.
like you have this particular very powerful relationship with your part of it or your version or something. And not only are you do you operate now as like the switchboard operator, but it feels to me like the switchboard itself has been like a divine, I don't know, presence or guide, or like you were already tapped in and it was guiding you, before you even
Yes.
realized
Yes.
what your role was or something.
Yeah. I mean,
Mm,
I'm a Gemini, we
mm,
love communication, so I'm in the right job. And everything I've ever done has been Gemini, kinds of jobs. Um, but I'm also a sharer, and I call myself a shameless sharer because I can't keep it to myself. If I read a book and I think, wow, this is so good, everybody should know about it, I've got to tell everybody. If I come across a person, I've got to share them. Look, you've got to meet this person, you've got to listen to this person. That's just part of my personality. And because of that, I have been able to connect an awful lot of people with people that they need to meet. I mean,
yeah.
doing the interviews is a form of connection. It's me, showcasing people who need to hear people like you, you know.
Mm,
You've got to have someone who's going to push you up the front, shine the spotlight and say, hey, everybody, look over
mm.
here.
Well, and the way that I experienced that in you, is just, it's so pure from your heart, right? It's just like, it's like, it feels like the definition of generosity. It's just, I feel this pure light just emanating from you, and it just has to move, like it has to go, and there's no other motivation. That's what
Yeah.
anyway, that's me just getting to know you, but really, truly, it struck me so fast. It's just so beautiful, and again, could make me cry because it's so genuine. Yeah, so pure. So, yeah. Anyway.
Well, I really believe in cooperation and collaboration.
Yes.
They're so important, especially now as we're going through this. And anyone, the idea of meeting someone wonderful and keeping it to yourself, that's just
Mm,
like, I can't conceive of that.
mm, amazing. So, yeah. So again, kind of taking ourselves back however far, a few decades or however far you want to go. I would love to hear your perspective. Again, you kind of alluded to this a little when we met a few weeks ago, but I would love to hear your perspective on how have you seen anything you want to share about how have you seen the spiritual world change? What do you feel like the trends or the themes have been, kind of leading up to now, and then, where do you see it going? So I was born in 1977, just to contextualize, right? So in 1987, when that experience happened, I was 10. I was 10 years old. So I mean, I was alive probably during a lot of these things that you're describing, but I wouldn't have the kind of perspective you do, right? So yeah, I would just love personally, and I think everyone would love to hear what have you seen going on, and yeah, how do you see now too?
Well, back then, 87, even before then, it was like, you know, you hid your books because there were so many people who thought, you're, you're crazy. You're reading those kinds of books. Even my own sister used to think I was so gullible. Why are you reading those kinds of books? I remember reading von Daniken, Chariot of the Gods, and all those books back then. And people looked at me like I was crazy. My family thought I was crazy, but that was what I was interested in. What's happened over the years, of course, the whole spiritual arena has changed so much. By the time I got to America in 1999, it was beginning to unfold. A lot more people were willing to talk about it. And of course, we had the internet. And running a spiritual magazine, I was sort of, right in the center of it. What was happening then, though, it was very innocent. People were so excited to be able to talk about these things, and suddenly come out of the closet. But there was message boards everywhere. Everybody was on a message board, and they were so nice. There was no trolling back then. People were just so excited at the possibilities that were unfolding. And then, you go forward another 10 years, and suddenly you see that getting a little bit, there's a darker side to that. There's,
Mm.
people starting to troll others, people who were coming out of religions, who'd been brought up in religions, and thought that perhaps by getting into the spiritual arena, they would find it more peaceful and people would accept them more. There was a lot of backlash going on. People suddenly wanting to be spiritual, but then finding that that didn't work for them either. And a lot of people also jumping on bandwagons. As we've seen, this industry now, the mind, body, spirit, is worth over 3 trillion.
Wow.
3 trillion a year.
Mm,
I mean, that is enormous. You could never get a channeled book published by a mainstream publisher. Now they're all looking for it because they know it sells. So the market has changed radically, but we've also seen a lot of people come along very excited, waking up, discovering all kinds of things about themselves and about the world that they didn't know, and being enthusiastic and wanting to share it and be an evangelist. But a lot of those people, that I've come across really haven't spent enough time doing the work.
mm,
And then you find, this is a lucrative industry. And the sad thing about it, the bit that really makes me sad is that if you become a spiritual teacher, you're now putting your all into doing this because you really feel you want to share. You want to share, you want others, you want to teach. And what happens is becomes your living. And then what you find sometimes with some teachers is the tail starts wagging the dog.
ah,
And then suddenly they can't be as free in making their decisions as they used to be because now they've got a whole team that they've got to support. They've got to walk a certain line. They've got to, so I think that's the sad side of it.
mm,
And it's sometimes hard for some people to continue being as authentic as they were when they started out. So it's calling for a lot more, stamina, a lot more, publicly, you've got to be seen to be walking your talk. And
yeah,
I've seen many, many teachers come and go, some that are so big, and yet they haven't done their own inner work.
yeah.
Yeah. And then you see them disappear.
Mm,
And I've seen publishing companies, who start off with a particular mission and then get seduced by the amount of money they can make.
ah,
And then that begins to, you know, the further we go and the more into this new energy we travel, the more sure we have to be that we are doing our work.
yeah,
Otherwise, it's going to hit us upside the head. So yeah, I mean, it's wonderful. It's wonderful that, the new age material, as it used to be called, is now so acceptable and the science. But at the same time, we've also got to look at the shadow side of that and be very
definitely.
careful.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been reflecting on that a lot. How if I think if I think back, or not even back, if I think to what we've typically thought of as, if you want to call it, I don't like to use this word, but like celebrities. I mean, people who people have tended to look up to, like let's say movie stars or TV actors or whatever it is. The stereotype, of course, is of people who I would say probably their personal life, not that I know any of them personally, but I would guess the average person, we wouldn't actually want to emulate their personal life, right? There's a lot of drama and drug use and all these things that, like, I wouldn't want my kids looking up to XYZ rock star in the 80s when I was a kid or something, right? So I think about that. Um, in this day and age, that we're all human, and how crucial it is. I keep getting called over and over and over again in my own life, but also just in the way that I like in spaces I'm holding for people is there's this feeling that maybe on one level, because there's so much tragedy and so much horrificness going on in the world, that it's selfish or kind of self-centered or privileged in a way to do the inner work. But then I think, well, but if we don't, then what? Right? Like yeah, if I went around the world or you went around the world or any of us went around the world kind of half like if we kind of stopped our own inner healing, then we just go around perpetuating that state of half healedness. Not that we're ever going to be perfect. Like that's not the point either, but um and I know that you're friends, for example, with Lee Harris, and I don't know him personally, but I think of him as someone who my experience of him is he's someone who's walking that talk.
Yeah,
That's my sense, right? And so, yeah, that's what I really, it's like, wow, that's what we need. And to my feeling, that's part of what we need moving
yeah,
forward, right? Is this
yeah.
beautiful humanness. Like he talks a lot about being healers, but also being human and
Yes.
really integrating that.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And I see Pam as a similar kind of,
yeah.
really exceptionally high integrity being. And I do know her more personally, right? But it just, I don't think we've necessarily had a lot of that previously. Or maybe I just haven't been aware of it. But I think as we're more conscious now, I think we have the ability to have more of that, maybe, please.
I think so.
Yeah.
And, Lee is a great model for anyone who wants to be a spiritual teacher.
Yeah.
Watch the way he behaves. And
Yeah.
I've known Lee since about 2008, and he
Mm,
wasn't known then. And
mm,
he is the same person that he was back then. And
mm,
Lee knows, because he'll often say to me, I'm the no BS girl, so you don't you don't give any bullshit to me because I'll
mm.
call you on it.
Awesome.
And Lee is just, yeah, he's a wonderful example. And I've got other friends who, before they can teach something, they have to experience and embody it.
Yes.
And that can be very painful for
Yes.
them while they're doing that. And I'm sure you understand that.
I
But
do.
you can't teach something if you don't fully embody it. You know, People today, even those that are just waking up, think they're just waking up, are so energetically sensitive that even if we don't know it here, we feel it here. We know when someone isn't telling the truth. We
Yeah.
feel it. We may not be able to identify how we know it, but it's just there as a knowing, so we've got to be impeccable. We
Yes.
really do have to be impeccable.
Yes. Yeah, and it takes a lot, like to speak for myself. For me, it's taking a lot of focus and concentration and dedication and like just continually bringing myself back to my own center over and over every single day over. Yeah. It takes a lot of effort for me, speaking for myself again. Yeah.
You have to question yourself an awful lot, and
Yeah.
I find myself doing that, when I have a challenging time with someone or an experience, I always speak to my best friend and we always tell each other, oh, well, you've got more work to do, get on with it.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Mm.
Um, so then along those lines, um, yeah, if there's anything else you want to say that feels still alive about, the trends you've seen over the past decades, I would love to hear that. But then I would love to hear also, yeah, if you have a wish for how the spiritual world would, I mean, the world in general would go. We can think of lots of things we would probably all agree on, but in the spiritual community, if you had a wish or a vision of how you would love for the coming decades to evolve, I would love to hear what that would be like for you.
Well, that's a hard one, you know. I mean, I would love for everybody to have access to material,
Mm.
to books, to teachings, etc., to decide for themselves. I think within all of us lives this knowing, this area of knowing. And you can't, you can be taught stuff, you can listen to people talking about stuff, but ultimately you've got to see whether does this stuff really resonate with me? Is it speaking to something within me? And I want people to have that as soon as possible. It took me a long time to listen to what was inside me. I think it was prodding me for a long, long time, all those years of reading and accepting some books and tossing others, and I just didn't listen to it. But I think we all know, we come in knowing, we know who we are. We've just forgotten. And if I wish that education was different. I wish that we could talk to our children in the way and teach our children in the things that are really important, not half the stuff they're having to learn at school these days. I just wish we would accept this side of ourselves
Yeah.
and not run it down, not abuse people who are dedicated to their own, personal growth and development. And that's, I just want people to go within and find out, because it's all there. It's all there. They've
Yeah.
just got to, whichever way that they can get there, they've got to, you know.
Yeah. So then where I'm guided is, but again, tell me if there's something else here you want to do. But I would love for you to share with everybody, the ways that you support that, because so you have these three shows and you have a writing program, right? So yeah, can you, and if there's anything else that I'm missing there, you want to just tell us how do
Yeah.
you serve in the world, and tell us about you and all of that, all of those ways.
Okay. Well, I'm not somebody who gets an awful lot of downloads. I don't see myself as incredibly psychic or having, these guides that give me all this direction. But every now and then something pops in. I call it a download out of the blue. And I'll look at that. And because I'm an action-oriented person, I usually go for it long before I've thought the darn thing through. I've done that with, spiritual magazines, and I produced a magazine back in the early 2000s called Children of the New Earth. And it was all about the new kids that were coming in and trying to ground that information so that teachers and doctors and nurses and therapists would begin to take it seriously rather than treating it as some woo woo whatever. um, and I've often got into trouble for doing things like that, but 5 years ago I was berating the fact that I was continually getting pitched um, books that I felt weren't deep enough. And
Mm.
with so many people waking up, looking for material, the first place people go is books. It's the cheapest, the easiest way. And I realized, and people were always asking me what books would I recommend, but I just got so annoyed at the number of what I call derivative books that were coming onto the market that I just said to the universe, somebody needs to come up with some kind of guidance for people, to sort the wheat from the chaff. And literally, it was as if somebody unfurled, a screen, and I just saw this whole thing. And
Wow.
I looked at it and thought, wow, that's clever. That really is genius. I'm not doing it. I've done enough. I'm not doing that one. Um, and the idea was brilliant. It wasn't mine. It was given. But I ignored it for a year. No, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. But I kept looking at it out of the corner of my eye. And then I thought, well, let's have a little play with this. And then I realized that, I was perfectly positioned to do it. And the idea was, you know, you can get reviews for books, and the publisher is always going to sing the praises of the books that they're trying to sell, but where's the independent information? And I realized that I interview all of these people all of the time. What if I went to these teachers, speakers, and authors and said to them, tell me the 10 books that changed your life? What were the books that shifted your perception, that woke you up, that moved you along, that you think are the best books to recommend to those that are just waking up? And that's the essence of the No BS Spiritual Book Club.
Mm.
And it was Lee Harris who gave me the name, because
Really?
I kept coming up with ideas, and he said, well, what do you really want to call it? And I said, well, you know it's a spiritual book club, so I can't be too blunt, but I'd like to call it something like, no bullshit. And he said, there you go, no BS spiritual book club. um and what
Awesome.
so what we're doing is we're building an archive of trusted recommendations, not from me,
Mhm.
from the people that many of us follow, the
Mhm.
people whose work we like, the people who've walked the walk and talked the talk. And if we can look at the books that have influenced them, and of course, over a period, you're going to find that the same kinds of books keep coming up again and again, then you've got some guidance to offer people. Go and read these 20 books, they'll set you on your journey. So I started it. I started the No BS Spiritual Book Club. And as I always do, I didn't think it through. And 5 years later, I'm having to redesign everything, rebuild the website to make it so, the search part of it so easy for people, so that anyone coming there, can find, if it's books on near-death experiences or African religion or whatever, they can
Mhm.
find what they're looking for, and they can hear what other people have said about those books, what's been recommended, why was it recommended. So I publish, 3 to 4 new, what I call 10 best lists every month on the website, and then I do an interview with the person. And honestly, these are the best interviews I've ever done. And the
Wow.
reason is because no one is pitching their latest book. What they're doing is talking about their life and
Mhm.
how certain books transformed their life for them. And I think that the viewers sense, because these people are unplugged, you know, they sense the authenticity there, and they love it. And they get to learn things about the person that they wouldn't learn otherwise. So this is my baby. This is my legacy project. And a year ago, I was given another download. And that one I'm still working on making it happen. But that one was, now it's time for you to take it out into the world. Now it's time for you to help people start their own No BS spiritual book club in their home, in their village, in their community, so that like-minded people can gather. Those that are
Mhm.
just waking up, maybe their friends and their family, think what they're reading is all woo-woo, crazy stuff, they can find their tribe and they can grow together. And in those small little groups, you know, you can begin to help people find the right books to get them on the path, the books that are going to help them grow. So that's a huge piece of my life that I never, ever dreamed would happen, ever,
Mm.
you know. Mm.
Wonderful. And then you have two other shows. and you have this writing program,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So tell us
Yeah.
about all of that. Yeah.
Well, that's another thing people were saying to me for years. Why don't do a writing course? And why would I? There's so many fantastic writers out there doing courses. What can I offer? And I thought, I can't, offer anything that they're not offering. And but then I suddenly realized that there are so many people who want to write a book, can't quite even begin
Yeah.
because of the voice in their head telling them, you can't write, or, what makes you think your story is going to be of interest? How can you do this? That monkey on our shoulder that tells us we can't. Um, and I thought, well, maybe I could help people get through that stage. Then they
Yeah.
can go to the other writing courses and learn about structure and grammar and, all of the things. Just help them get into their heart,
Mm.
their soul, and find out what is it that their soul wants to share. And if they can grow their confidence doing that, then, it's open to them if they want to speak or present or write or whatever. Just kill a few of those, voices at the back of their head that keep telling them that they're not good enough. And so I launched this at the beginning of the year, and I was blown away because what I realized, people were coming back to me, was it was therapy. And it was
Yeah.
the best kind of therapy because nobody's talking about therapy, but what was happening, people were saying, wow, that inner critic, that was so and so. I recognized the voice. And then I realized, and through the writing prompts that I give people, it's, all I'm doing is giving them writing prompts,
Mm.
and their soul is bringing up what they're ready to deal with. And these people are just having amazing breakthroughs in their life. Forget the writing, just in their confidence in themselves, in their life, in who they are. So that's, something again that was totally unexpected, never dreamed of. But I'm going to continue with it because I just love it when I hear people say, I never thought I could write. But their soul's got so much to share, as
Yeah.
all of us do. All of us, we've all got stories, and other people need to hear our stories because that's how other people can, begin to compare where they're at and what they think, what they want, what they don't want, etc., by listening to their other people's stories.
Yeah. Yes. And yeah, I feel so good hearing that from you specifically, because again, I can feel your heart so genuinely there with people. Um, and also say, in my work with people, the thing that has moved me the most out of anything, I think, is witnessing similarly in a different context. I'm not helping people write books, but like, is it strikes me, and again, I feel so sad, like a lot of grief actually, when I witness how powerfully we have been taught to silence our voices or to even silence our own knowing that we even have needs or feelings or we exist almost on a certain level. And I think that's especially been true for people, have been raised as girls. I think it's true for any gender, but especially I see that in women, and especially women, people who tend to come to me, I'm guessing, are similar type of people that who come to you,
Yeah,
but it's like 55 and older women are the it tends to be the group that comes to me. And so I think for people my age and older, especially, I think our generations have really gotten this message like, shh, you're a girl, just sit down and be nice and sweet. And
yeah,
so we haven't been nurtured or nourished to have a voice and then to feel valued, important, yeah, there's just so much shame and guilt and a sense of yeah, that we're supposed to stay small and
yeah. Who do you
yeah.
think you are?
Yeah. that, all of that,
Yeah,
right? So
yeah.
it feels actually literally revolutionary on our planet right now that we would be um noticing, acknowledging, and honoring our self and then our voice,
Yes.
right? Yeah.
Because we've all come here to do something. We've
Yeah.
all come. Every single one of us is important. And
Yeah.
for us to grow up thinking that we are unimportant, we have nothing to offer. I mean, that is such a crime.
No, it's horrible. It's horrible.
Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
I think the system is set up that way,
Yeah.
because too many people knowing who they are can be a dangerous thing.
Hmm. Yeah. And it's just tragic. I mean, it's
Yeah,
really, you know,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah.
thank you. Thank you. I feel you like holding people's hearts. That's the feeling I get in myself when I think of you holding these
Yeah.
courses. Yeah. So is that something just on a practical level? Is that something that's ongoing? Is that something that you're gonna
I
be?
will I will be running the next one probably from January. I don't want to do it now because we run into Christmas. It's a 9-week course
Yeah,
and it's usually about 2 to 2.5 hours each session once a week. So I thought I'll wait until January and do the next one. We've done 2 series and this will be
that's
the third series. Yeah. Yeah.
great.
And you're right. I love what you said there, holding people's hearts, because if we can hold people's hearts until they can hold their own,
Okay.
wow, what a powerful thing. What a great gift that is.
You make me cry again. Really,
Well,
truly.
you said it.
No, no, but just yeah, but I can feel it. I can just feel your heart so strongly. It's just so true. Yeah. Um, Beautiful. And then do you want, so if people are interested in that, should they reach out to you? Should
If
they?
if people go to my website, at the moment, I've got one website, which is my last name, sedgbeer.com. On there is the No BS Spiritual Book Club, and on there is also a piece about the storyteller course. And I encourage them to send me an email and let me know they're interested in the next one, and then
Okay,
I'll send them the details, as soon as I'm ready to announce the date when that's going to begin. Yeah.
great.
But
Yeah,
there will be a new, 2 websites in the next couple of months. The No BS will have its own website so that we can then start offering to guide people how to start their own, as well as, just going there and watching the videos and reading the 10 best lists, etc. And my website will be more about my shows and about the storyteller course.
great. Okay, so yeah, so I'll share that, all of that now, but then maybe when all those other things are ready, please send it to me again and I'll share it
Yeah,
again. So yeah,
yeah, yeah.
awesome.
Happy
And
to.
then do you want to share about the other two shows or anything else?
Yeah, I do one show called Between Realms and Reason. For many years, I hosted the flagship show for Om Times Media Network, Om Times Magazine, and it was called What Is Going Om. And now that I'm producing my own shows, it's kind of the same kind of thing. I'm speaking to teachers, speakers, authors, scientists, except that between realms and reason, I'm going a little bit further. I'm going closer to the edge. I want, to keep track of all of the new stuff that's coming, what's happening, all the discoveries that are being made. I'm so excited, that we are in a place where we can discover so much. And, music and sound and frequency has been something that I've been passionate about for a long time because I know the healing potential. And now to see all this science emerging. So, I'm talking to people who are at the edge of that. So I always want to be a step ahead if I can.
Yes, like I know you've had a couple conversations with David Clements, for
David,
example,
yeah,
right? Yeah,
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 and
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yes,
And
really, yeah,
I'm looking at the new teachers, I mean, I've been around long enough. I know a lot of the existing teachers, some that are fantastic and some, they're great. They've got something to offer, but there's a new breed coming up
mm,
now. And that really excites me. And, you're one of them.
Aw.
And I've said this to you, I'm watching the new teachers and looking at how can we support those? How can those of us, been around a long time, what can we offer
Mm.
you, to help you? Because you're going to be taking over the next lot, it's going to
Yeah,
be in your hands. So, we have to gather together and offer you whatever we can. So I'm
wow.
looking at ways of doing that right now.
Oh, that's incredibly moving for me. Thank you. Yes, yeah, that's a whole conversation, but yes, I've been feeling like a web starting with the people in more my generation, like people in our 40s or maybe early 50s, kind of
Yes.
finding each other and
Yes.
noticing, oh, here's this web. Right, like
Yeah.
the mutual friend we have who connected me with you, Patrick, it's like I feel like he's
Yeah.
one of he's part of that web.
Yeah.
And Lee, and like there's certain,
Yeah.
yeah, people of this age. And at the same time, it's like such a fascinating phenomenon. Um, at the same time, it's like this web is starting to connect, and I'm starting to feel it getting really strong because yes, like in the coming decades, presumably, we'll need to take over or whatever it is. But and and in the meantime, there's this, again, like I told you, the people who tend to gravitate toward me, at least right now, are significantly older than me, women, 65 and older, mostly actually, 55 and older, but really 65 and older. And they are so primed and so ready to I would say revolutionize their lives. Like people who are, 79 years old, yet are on this whole new lease on life. Like there's this whole, I can feel it. There's decades still of them coming in. It's like they're being reborn now at age 79, and just there's so much that this is trying to come through them into the world. In various ways. It doesn't have to be loud and on the stage, it could be more subtle, but for some of them, no, I think it is meant to be pretty big and visible. And it's like, I don't know. I would love to just, yeah, I think that'd be my last question for you, really, is what do you see in that? Because it feels like a phenomenon. It's like the world needs these people who have maybe been more hidden, who have been more concentrated on, being a mom or in a career or whatever it is. And now they're 65, 75, 85, and they feel this calling. That's the theme I hear from people over and over and over again. They come to me because it's like they're starting to hear spirits, and they see this, and they feel this thing awakening in them, but they have no idea what to do with that. But they know they're supposed to do something, right? And I can feel it. The world needs them so
Yeah.
badly right now. So yeah,
It
yeah,
reminds me of you hear some of these science fiction stories about, all of these people who have sleepers, and they're going to be triggered at the right point when someone wants them to do something awful. I see a lot of that as sleepers, but of the nicest kind, they don't know. They didn't know. They've spent a whole life not knowing, but suddenly now, the new consciousness, I mean, the waves of, energy coming onto the planet are literally waking people up,
yeah.
triggering changes in the DNA, lighting up, different parts of them. And they're so ready for something new because many of them have just lived an ordinary life thinking I'm just an ordinary person, there's nothing, but suddenly they're being offered an opportunity
Mm.
to do something meaningful, to be part of something meaningful. And I've been around long enough to watch many of the indigo kids, the crystal kids, back when I was producing that magazine, grow up. And now here they are, fully ready, and they need our support as well.
Yes.
So it's almost like everyone's being woken up. It's like a clarion call, you know. The
Yes.
time is now. You've had this life. Now you got to get ready to go into action.
Wow. And do you see, I mean, you may or may not have an answer for this, but do you see a particular role for that sort of 65 and older group that seems to be particularly alive, at least in my sphere? Do you have a perspective on that?
I think there's an awful lot of wisdom that people have gained that they don't know they've gained,
Exactly. Yes.
and we
Yes.
need to be sharing it.
Yes.
We definitely need to be sharing. Whether they've never been led a public life, they've got wisdom. Whether it's wisdom that's been passed down, through their lineage, whatever, they've
Yeah.
got wisdom. And often, too, at that age, they've got a whole other perspective. I remember my mentor and my astrology teacher telling me, and I knew her from probably, I was 28 when I met her. And I remember her saying to me that for many, many women, it's not until they're about to go through the menopause that they will begin to come into their full self. And I said, why is that? And she said, because their energy is needed to be a mum, to be, to raise the children, to do all of that. And then when that is beginning to become less, of a call on their time, they can begin to flourish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly what's happening for me. My
Yeah.
48 years old, my oldest kid is 18 and just moved to college, 2 weeks ago. So yes, I'm right at the edge
Here
of
you
that.
go. Yeah.
Yeah.
You in? Yeah.
Yeah, I still have a 13-year-old at home and all that, but right, I'm right. I feel right at that turning moment myself. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
An
Amazing.
amazing time to be here. It really is. And I'm so glad, that I'm here and, healthy enough to be able to, watch, for another decade or two what's going on and no idea what that might be. But wow, I mean, this is what we came for.
Literally.
Yeah, yeah.
And we
We
and
came to move into that unknown and it's
yes.
going to be bigger than anything we could imagine.
I completely agree. I feel it. And
Mm.
I feel so strongly. We're here to do it together.
Yes. We
Which,
can't do it otherwise.
yes,
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah,
yeah,
and I don't know, I mean, from your perspective, to me, it feels like this calling to pull together and find each other and do it as a collective feels much, much, much stronger to
yes,
me, certainly than 10 years ago, but even feels stronger than it's getting stronger and stronger and stronger almost every
yeah,
minute for me.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I think we're realizing that, we are all one,
Yeah.
and we've got to start acting like that in order to get it done.
Right.
Yeah,
And the image I get again is that switchboard that you talk about, is like that we are all one. We are the totality of all of existence, which to me I see as the divine light grid or switchboard. And at the same time, of course, we are unique little points on that
yes,
switchboard. So we need to both like hone our own unique light, really own it, get to know it, honor our own self, but then recognize the totality and the connections. And then we need people like you. we need the switchboard operators, really, truly, truly, truly. And the light that you just are. I mean, yeah, so, so beautiful. Mm. Um, was there any other thing you feel called to say or add or
no, I think everybody knows it. They're hearing it all the time now. But, I just want people to know that there's so much more than they think they are. So much more than anyone has led them to believe. And if they can just, find the switch, the key, whoever the teacher might be for them, oh my God, what's waiting for them is just, beyond imagining. Yeah.
and just
And we're powerful. I read an article today, or at least a headline today, that people, given what's happening in the world right now, and people are just beginning to realize, that people have power. Look at the Jimmy Kimmel thing.
Mhm.
The fans, the people who all stood up there,
Mhm.
changed something. Now you look at that. When we join together, we're unbeatable.
Wow.
And it doesn't matter who's in charge. You know,
Right.
how powerful they may be, when the people get together, they can bring about change.
Wow. Yeah. And the power of, again, if I think about that light grid and each of us being like a node of light on the light grid, right? And if I imagine, let's take like those nodes of light, which is each of our spirit, our essence, and imagine that it's kind of the dial on that light having been turned down because we didn't believe in ourselves, right? Which I think we could probably all raise our hand and say, yes, there's some way I've had my light turned down for the first part of my this up until now. But now I think the one of the big ways I feel like we're being called is nope, turn that light right back up,
Yeah,
all the way. Be completely yourself. Let yourself land fully here as the light that you are, the being that you are, the soul that you are, the wisdom that you are. And then what if we all do that on that switchboard, right? What if you there as the switchboard operator just go bing and then we all go
yeah,
through literally throughout existence. And then I see this image of all these butterflies, flying out of those light nodes. Then what? Like it just I mean that's an actual revolution of light of who we are.
absolutely.
Hmm.
Absolutely. That's who and what we are.
Yeah.
And if we recognize that, and one light on its own is one light, but you put 100 together, oh
Oh,
my God, you got megawatts.
oh, oh, it's getting chills everywhere. Wow. Amazing, Sandy. Thank you so, so, so much.
And thank you for
Mm,
hearing the call and stepping up.
mm.
That's another thing. Nobody, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to step up. Don't be afraid to say what you need to say, what your soul wants to share. Um, Nobody's laughing at you anymore.
No, no, no. And even if they are somewhere over here, we're not,
Yeah,
we're
it
not
doesn't
gonna be
matter.
cheering you
Doesn't
on.
matter. I mean, being your true, authentic self is reward enough, you
Yeah.
know, but being your true, authentic self is a reward for the rest of the world as well.
Yes. And we will be your cheerleaders,
Yes.
literally.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, incredible. I feel very, very lit up and very deeply grateful in my heart. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
And
Um,
thank you too, Martha.
hmm. And thank you to everybody for watching, being here. And yeah, we would love, of course, to hear your thoughts, your reflections. Certainly, at the least, go to Sandie's website, Sandie's YouTube channel, subscribe to the YouTube channel, check out all of these things. I mean, this writing program sounds amazing. I would really love to continue to support that for you because it sounds just, if I were gonna find a dream person to support someone I care about in their writing journey, it would definitely be you. I mean, truly, just because again, because I feel you holding people's hearts, and just in such a genuine way. Um, so anyway, yes. All right. We'll see you all soon.